First off, you just released a song, "It's a Vicious Cycle." Can you walk us through the inspiration for that track, where that track came from?
Okay, so I really like the song Musician by Porter Robinson. Like
Mm.
I was like, I should make a song like this. And then I was like, I made a song like this. And here we are.
It's a very valid reason to create a track. I totally understand that. Although you didn't drop any solo music in that period, you certainly kept yourself busy with production on Tropes' recent EP. You produced the entirety of it. Can you walk us through how that project came to fruition?
Yeah, so Tropes, I think it was like in April, I think Tropes asked me for like an indie beat.
Mm-hmm.
And the first beat I sent him was Token Eye.
Mm.
And then they were like and then they made that and then they sent it to me. And
Mm-hmm.
originally I was gonna be on it, but like I don't really record that much.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, if I can, I can.
Mm-hmm.
But then they were like, okay, send me another. Then I think the next one I made was My Last Dream. And
Mm-hmm.
then wait, no, 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 no. The the beat from My Last Dream is actually from a cover of Onyx by Wikipedia that I made a couple
Mm.
months ago.
Really?
Yeah. So I think it's still up. So I think if you play like the Onyx cover, it's on my second account, I think. And
Mm.
then you play My Last Dream and they're like the same. They're like the same beat.
That's really fascinating. Wow.
And then the third beat was the What We Had Is Dead, that one. That was the second beat that they wanted me to send them. And then I think and like the last one, the Reason Why beat, which is like I think the biggest song right now,
Mm-hmm.
like on the EP. It was like a couple days before it dropped, and like Trost like DM me in a hurry. There was like, hey, quick, can you make me a beat that sounds like Jealous by iDress? And I was like, okay, I'll try.
Right. Yeah. They were just like, I need one more. I need one more. And then you whipped it up for him real quick.
Yeah. And then it's like, I need more than a reason why.
That's funny, funny. All right. And then you mentioned there that you actually had a track that you were actually intended to hop on, and like something that's seems to happen all the time to like my producer friends is they'll be like working on like a project or a track for like for like a different person, and then halfway through creating it, they'll realize like, shit, I kind of want to hop on this. Like, I really like this a lot. I kind of want to hop on this. Has that ever happened to you with any tracks in the past? Or
Yeah. You know what's funny? For
Mhm.
the this is like way, way back. Do you remember the Roblox core?
Right? Yeah.
The original song was I
Hmm.
think just supposed to be Dolly and Delta.
Hmm.
And then because it was like me, Dolly, Delta, and Lou in this group chat, and we all just like Dolly she sent the beat in the chat, and I think she sent the open,
Hmm.
and I don't know who it was intended for, so I just made a verse on it out of like impulse, and then like she just kept it, and then Lou also made a verse,
Hmm.
and Delta also made a verse, and then that happened. But I think aside from that, that hasn't really happened. No.
Oh, really? That's interesting. And like you mentioned, like Lou, Dolly, all those people, and like and recently, Tropes has been your most recent collaborator, but they've been far from just the only people that you've worked with in the past. You've lent production credits to everyone from like Finland's to Midwest. So I'm wondering, like, how has working with such a wide variety of artists like influenced the way that you approach making music?
I think because I try to do my own thing every time, but I also try to like do something that's like similar to like stuff that they release. So it's like when when Edgar was like send me a beat for the Graved Up song, I was like let me like do a little antagonist type beat, but also like put like I guess like a little like Edgar spin on it too.
All right,
And
that's really
then
yeah.
that's how the beat came to be.
That's really fascinating. On a completely different note, in doing research on you, I found a lot of really interesting information, but I also stumbled upon the fact that you are a fan of hot sauce on bagels. And, as a messenger of the public, I'm here to give you an opportunity to defend yourself on that. Why would you ever suggest something like that?
I think this happened this interest in hot sauce on bagels started very recently because I remember like I came home from school and usually I like eat a bagel when I come home from school, but like
Mm-hmm.
we were out of cream cheese. So I went to I went to look for like an alternative, and I was like, let me try hot sauce and a bagel, and then it just did end up being so good, in my opinion. Just
That's funny.
I know I
That's
get
how
flamed for it.
all like unique foods come about. It's just like, we're out of one. Well, it's time to substitute with something else. Any particular hot sauces for that, or?
Just like Tabasco sauce.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. And then going back to the project that a lot of people know you for, Teen Week. With any debut release, there's bound to be a lot of like unknowns. So I'm wondering, what expectations did you have going into the release of Teen Week?
I think I'm not exactly sure because like I remember like statistically wise, I wanted to do like 10,000 on album day. That was the goal, to do 10,000 on SoundCloud on album day. And then it ended up doing like way more than 10,000. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then streaming wise, I was streaming wise, I was even more surprised because like before Teen Week, like my streaming audience was like very small. And I think what had a lot to do with it was like Rate Your Music, the website,
Right. Yeah, they
because
fell in love with you because Pitchfork, huh?
no, it was that, and then I think like because I think all my friends were like rating the album on Rate Your Music, so then eventually like it got placed in like for like the first week it was like number 7
Oh wow.
on for the year. I mean, it's not number 7 anymore. It's like number like 300 something, but still I'm like the fact that like it's even charted is still really cool.
Yeah, no, that's insane. It's interesting to see how like even something like Write Your Music can influence like an album's trajectory to such an extent. And
Yeah.
then going back to like the Pitchfork review, Teen Week really was like a release that was like impossible to ignore. I remember like the week that it launched, everybody was tweeting like hashtag Teen Week, and then like word of it even got around to like Anthony Fantano, and he watched it on like
Yeah.
the New Music Friday stream. So I'm wondering like how did such like an overwhelming response to the album affect you?
That it was like it almost kind of didn't feel real in the sense where it was like where it's like, this is my time. Like that day, it was like this is my time, this is my day. And I was like I was surprised because normally I'm like because especially because like I entered the scene as like a fan, and now I'm like now like that was like my day. That was like my time to shine. It's kind of like a change in like status, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a role reversal. I think a lot of people can sort of speak to that. Like I remember when I talked to Juno, they also referenced the fact that like they just came in just being a fan of the music, and then like just something snapped, and then all of a sudden they're on the same level with a lot of people that they maybe idolized beginning out.
Yeah, definitely.
And then with Teen Week being such a project that covers so many different bases, both stylistically and then also like thematically, I'm wondering what were some of your biggest influences going into the project?
Definitely uh Porter Robinson. Quinn was a very big influence on the album. Wells. Um I think the 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 chord progression on Beast Friend was inspired by Jealous by iDress. And then I think 17 or the first draft of 17 was inspired by Must Be Nice by Quinn. And then there's a part that like never surfaced or like I posted a snippet on Twitter, but it's probably down now, where like the I posted a version with like drums on it, and that part's inspired by Pessimist by Curtains. And then and then I just scrapped out the drums. Like sometimes I wonder like if I dropped it with drums, like would it get like the same reception as it like did?
That's really fascinating. Yeah, to think about how like a slight tweak in it could result in like such a different reaction from an audience. And then what's also interesting is that like you mentioned you got a lot of inspiration from people in the scene. Like when I talked to like Raygun, for example, they just listed a bunch of like indie pop artists, a lot of people outside of the scene. But it's interesting to hear that you drew inspiration from people that are now like your like peers essentially.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then with a release as layered as Teen Week, I can imagine it's sometimes it was sometimes difficult to pinpoint when you could like consider a track like finished and like ready to go and like ship it off. So I'm wondering like how do you draw the line on when a track is finished and say like okay, this is done.
I think I think it really just like depends on like how like often I like keep pressing the play button. Cause especially cause like when I was working on like Teen Week, like when I first started, I was I was like not it really just depended on like the songs I like wasn't going back to because like I would like listen to it at school. Like I would listen to like the rough draft at school, like or like even with like songs that like I haven't dropped yet, or like songs in the past that I didn't drop, or like that I dropped now. Like I would listen to them at school, and I think I would just like judge it based on like the replay value.
That's really interesting. Something that I've heard, I forget who told this to me, but I think it's a really good quote. Something that I've heard about music, about pretty much any artistic creation in general, is that like the things you create don't get released; they escape. It's just sort of like eventually you decide that like yes, this is good to go, and then you put it out into the world.
Yeah,
And then before you get to Teen Week, I'm sure you'd have to spend years developing your sound, figuring out what works best for you. So I'm wondering, like, how do you look back on your music from maybe the beginning of your career to like maybe even like a year ago?
I think I have like music on. I don't know if I can find like I don't know if I can find my old phone,
Hmm.
but I had like I started on like GarageBand
Hmm.
on like or like I started like well, because the thing is, I like started on like my iPod from like the iMachine app, but like I started like actually like putting stuff on SoundCloud on like my phone
Hmm.
in like GarageBand, but like looking, I mean, considering like it's GarageBand, it's actually pretty good, but like
Hmm.
obviously it's like not as good in like retrospect to like
Hmm.
stuff like even when I like think of stuff like or like when I go back to old project files from like a year ago and I see that like I was like, oh, I did this way, or like, oh, I put these plugins on the track, and it's like, oh, I wouldn't have done that like now. I don't know. I think like my production style is like always like stayed somewhat similar, but I think I just like more refined version of
Hmm.
like what I intended in the beginning.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that's like something I've heard a lot is that like maybe things haven't necessarily taken in it like a complete shift, but more so it's just a more precise version of like maybe what your old work was more a more muddy version of what you have now.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, and I gotta know, are there any projects, any tracks, anything from like way back when that make you grimace now? Anything like that's like make you cringe or anything like that, or no?
Not gonna lie, I think some of the songs on Teen Week kind of, or like some of the songs on Teen Week, like I just cannot listen to anymore. Like
Really?
I can't I can't listen to this 4 year cartridge anymore. Or like
Wow.
sometimes I can't listen to Let Down, but like Let Down's like I don't know, there were
Hmm.
like I don't know, some songs I like or like any of my music from like before my song with like Fraxium I like don't touch.
Really? That's really fascinating. I mean, personally, I think Cartridge is like one of my favorite tracks off of the entire album. So it's really interesting to hear you say that. Um, on a similar note, everyone is going to experience their fair share of like underwhelming response when they're just starting out, and I can imagine it's easy to lose motivation when like maybe you put a track out and it's not performing as well as you would have liked. So what did you do to keep yourself motivated when things weren't looking up for you when you're just starting out?
Well, I think what I already did before like because I already had like a set of friends that I just like made music with, but like I think I was just like kept consistently collaborating with like my friends like over and over. And like that's another thing I think and at least like my advice to like not like quote unquote blowing up, but like my advice to like getting a fan base is just like to keep dropping when like when you're smaller, like you need to drop like a lot
Hmm.
music. And then like I think like as you like get more and more like followers, I think like you drop like less often.
Hmm.
But like I don't know, I think that that just works for me because like around a year ago, I was dropping like once every like sorry,
You're totally
like
fine. Don't worry about it.
once every like I used to drop like once every like 2 weeks or like twice a month, and now I like obviously I drop like way less often than that.
Right, because I mean, when you're just starting out, you have a lot more to prove. You don't have like the goodwill built up with people where it's like, who's this delete Zeke guy? I don't know who this is. Like, it just it's I like you have to build up like a reputation, but then once you have the reputation, you can afford to maybe take a couple months off and then release some tracks from there.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
it's really interesting to hear that because like I wouldn't be saying this. I'm not saying this lightly. Literally everybody I've talked to, whether it be like Avid or Midwest or Eric or Juno, they've like all they're all in like unanimous agreement that you are one of the most talented people they've ever met. I think Juno said it pretty well when they said like you make it look easy. And I can imagine being told that like so frequently would have an effect on you. So I'm wondering, do you ever feel like a sense of like imposter syndrome?
Like I'm not exactly like sure because there's definitely like stuff that I've made that like I don't like. There's definitely like like not every song you like make or like not every beat you make is gonna like be a hit. But
Mm-hmm.
like I think what I like to do is I like to revisit stuff, and I also like I sample a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe like or like if I can't like make a sound or like if I'm like in Serum and I don't know how to make a sound, I think I chop up a sample instead.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting, and I think a major part of the reason why you're praised so much as you are is the fact that you handle pretty much like every aspect of your production yourself, whether it be like production itself or mixing, vocals, everything. So I'm wondering, like, what made you want to become sort of like a jack of all trades, and what advantages and disadvantages do you think come along with it?
I think the reason why I like do everything myself, or like at least the reason why I like started out doing everything by myself is because I was too scared to ask for help. Or like I was like or like I like or like I was like too scared to like ask someone like, hey, can you hop on this song? Or like, can you like, hey, can I like get a beat from you? Or like stuff like that. And I was already like pretty experienced in like making beats, so it's just like I could just like self prod. But mixing has definitely come a long way, and I
Mm-hmm.
recommend don't get other people to mix your songs. Mix your own songs yourself, so then you learn how to mix.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, if you're like with a professional engineer, that's different, obviously. But like
Right.
for like the time being, if you're like a smaller artist, like I recommend like you learn how to mix. So then like when the time comes and the your favorite person you hit up, your favorite person you hit up to mix your songs like isn't there, like it's like you're gonna learn how. So then you'll be like, I can do this now.
Mm-hmm. Right, for sure. And then, of course, with managing every individual like element of your music yourself, I've got to wonder if there are any other like aspects you're looking to dip your toes into. Like, have you ever wanted to like maybe whip up your own album artwork, maybe like a film score? Can we expect anything like that in the future?
I want to make a film score, but not in like near future because I want
Mm,
to wait until I have like because I want like to make a film score and a movie or like a
mm,
movie that like accompanies a film score,
mm-hmm,
and I want it to be like kind of like a horror movie, but like
mm.
I don't know. That's for like when I'm like 35 and
Like
like
the distant future, right? Yeah.
yeah, but
Okay.
like for now, I mean, I I would take like if I were to make another album, I would want to like probably get someone else to take the photo for me because like
Mm.
the Teen Week cover art was just like taken on my phone in my backyard. But
Oh,
like
really? Okay.
yeah, so I definitely want to like if there were to be another album, I would want to like somebody to take a picture for me instead of just like or like someone to just like you know hold the camera and I'm like somewhere else.
Right. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned the Teen Week album artwork because, like, honestly, like I think the importance of album artwork is often like pretty understated when it comes to projects and stuff like that. And honestly, like I checked out Teen Week partly because of like the album artwork. It was just I don't know what it was about it that was so striking to me. It just sort of gave me like a really interesting feeling, and I think it summarizes a lot of the sort of atmosphere of the album in general. But you mentioned that you want to make like a movie accommodating like one an album someday. With a release as large as Teen Week, you'd expect like maybe like a music video or two to accompany it. But you've yet to include any visuals alongside the album. So I'm wondering like, do you have plans for music videos in the future?
I feel like when I get to like if I when I get to a spot where like I don't have to like worry about like or it's like I don't have to like ask to go somewhere or like I don't have to like I don't have to like schedule to go a place. I could just like go a place. Once I get to like that status, I feel like it's gonna be a lot easier to
Hmm.
like make like music videos and just like visuals and stuff like that. Because
Hmm.
like for now, like I would just like I don't know. Because I feel like right now I'm kind of like limited when it comes to space that I have, and especially because like if there were to be a music video for one of the Teen Week songs, it would be Woodside Gardens, and
Hmm.
I wanted I can like envision it being like so just like laid out, and I'm like, I do not have the money for this. Not like I do
Yeah.
not have the money to plan out what I want to plan out. So I want to
For
wait
for
till
the
I
time
like
being, for the time being, but soon. Yeah.
yeah
I'm crossing my fingers for like an Overcast video someday. I think that would be a really really awesome.
yeah
Next, I gotta ask something that hits close to home because we're about the same age. You're 17, correct?
yeah I'm 17.
Right. So we're the same age, and whenever people our age see artists like you achieve such incredible things, there's usually like two schools of thought that people fall into. A lot of people look at where you started and where you're at now, and they think like, "Holy shit! If they can do it, then I can do it." But unfortunately, like a lot of people look at artists like you and they think like, wow, I'm like never gonna make something as good as like, whether it be like Teen Week or It's a Vicious Cycle, or whatever the case may be. So I'm wondering, what would you say to somebody who's maybe in that like, down at like they're feeling down because they're comparing themselves to artists such as you?
I'm not the best at giving advice because
Mm-hmm.
like I mean like I low key like did the same when I like or like when I was like younger and I was like, oh, I'm never gonna make an album as good as Worlds by Porter Robinson
Mm-hmm.
and like stuff like that. But like I think the key is to just like like I don't know. I don't want to say like oh just keep trying and you'll succeed, but like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It gets better with time. Like you can't really. Well, the thing with music is like you technically like you can get better overnight because it's kind of like you're stuck in this like plateau of like production skills and like let's say like you learn like one skill or like let's say you download like one plugin and then like all of a sudden you go up here because you downloaded that one plugin or something like that. But like I don't know, it's all that's how I view it, but like everyone produces differently.
Yeah, I think it's all just down to like, being yourself, because obviously like there's so many different people, whether it be, like people like Eliotto coming into the scene and making music that's just like for the widest common denominator and whatnot, and like trying to do something like that. Just you have to be yourself and then maybe push yourself outside your boundaries every once in a while. That's the sort of the tactic that I've seen work best for people.
Yeah.
But having the whole scene operate online has a lot of advantages. But seeing this, I guess, like world intersect with reality can be really really odd sometimes. Like for example, like Glaive recently had his face like plastered on a billboard, and that like made a lot of
Yeah, I
people on
saw
Twitter.
that.
Yeah, that made a lot of
That
people
was
do
so crazy.
like a holy shit. Like it's weird to see the like that world like intersect with reality. And I understand you recently had those two worlds collide when a classmate wrote about 52 Blue Mondays. Could you walk us through that situation and what happened there?
Yeah, that happened like I think last week because it was like I was in first period and the teacher like calls me down to the office and then or like the teacher like says like oh you have to go to the office or something like that. And then it was like I went to the office and they were like oh the guidance counselor wants you. And then she was like the guidance counselor's like oh you're not in trouble. Like there's like I just want to see how you're doing because a student of ours said that they wrote a project about a song that you wrote, and we just want to see if you're okay because the lyrics in here are quite questionable or something like that.
Yeah, jeez, it's always like that, like rap lyrics being used as like things and like documents and like court and stuff like that. It's a song. It's not like necessarily indicative, but yeah. That's really interesting. And the decision, from what I can gather, you're keeping mostly like your online and I guess we could call it like your IRL life separate. That's like I can totally understand that, the reasoning behind that. But I'm wondering what sort of difficulties have you encountered in trying to keep those two worlds separate?
At first, I wanted to like promote my music, and then I realized like they're not gonna like or accept you. So then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, so then I wanted to just like keep it online for the
Mm-hmm.
time being, and then I was like, so that was for like the first year or so, and then when I first got added to the hyperpop playlist in
Mm-hmm.
October, like the song with Frax,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, maybe I should like put this on my story, and then I did, and then my sister was like, oh, what song is it? And then that was like the first like the first like break in the boundary
Mm-hmm.
between like in real life and online. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I got the lyrical lemonade article for 52 Blue Mondays, I put that on my Snapchat story, and
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, as soon as I put it on my Snapchat story, I thought to myself, wait, your relatives follow you, and
Mm-hmm.
like all of your school, everyone you know at school follows you on Snapchat, and
Mm-hmm.
I instantly deleted it.
Mm, okay.
And then I think besides that, I think it's because the main reason why like my IRLs like found my music is because the Instagram I've used for like the Instagram I currently use is like the same Instagram I've been using since like 2018. So like
Mm-hmm.
I checked because what I did is like when I started to like get more followers, like when I started to switch from like being a like basic personal Instagram account to like a music account, I made a fake Instagram account, and like I follow all of my like relatives and all of my school like all of my IRLs on like on that account.
Mm-hmm.
So and with that I checked how many IRLs follow like my current Instagram, and like there were like 12 IRLs that followed it, and I got so worried.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, oh, but you have like, because at the time I had like 1,500 followers, so I was like, oh, that's not that bad. He'll be
Right.
fine. And then it was just like a couple months like silence, I think. And then in January, my like someone comes up to me, and then they were like, I heard that song you produced for Tropes and Pitfall. And I was like, how do you know who Tropes and Pitfall are? Or like someone like that. And that was in like January. And then again it stays like quiet. And then a month, no, not a month, like 2 weeks ago, someone Snapchatted me, and they were like, I've heard your name been going around and like all around the internet and like in publications and stuff. And they're like, keep up the good work. And I was like, oh, thanks. So that was like, it's kind of surreal because like I expected like them to not like my music
Mm-hmm.
at all. Cause like I live in like a small town, you know, filled with like locals.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is the same, really. I didn't think they'd like, they like the music that I like.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are.
Right. I mean, like that's one of the advantages of like this scene blowing up to such an extent. It's like kind of like just it's like reaching out in like so many different communities. It seems like I think again back to something that Juno said. Juno said that like hyperpop is in the mouth of like everybody up from like A&Rs in the industry down to like just random people on the street. So I think it's really nice to have like sort of interactions like that with people that you wouldn't expect to maybe be fans of like the music they create, but end up being and like you mentioned, like of course, like having a fun interaction like that, it's easy to focus on like maybe the negative interactions because there's I mean, for as amazing as this community is, there are like quite a handful of weirdos in it. But there's also a lot of really amazing people, and just like an interaction like that, there's some really like awesome interactions to be had. So I'm wondering, what have been some of your like favorite events, favorite like interactions you've had with fans online so far?
I think one of my favorite interactions was like, I think when Baby Goyard DM'd me, and he was like, send me a beat like Beast Friend. I haven't yet, but like
Mm.
I definitely plan on it because I was like, because I love Baby Goyard, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and I didn't know that he like liked the scene
Mm-hmm.
like that. So I was like, wait. And then what's it called? Another funny interaction, probably when like probably when like Quinn first followed me on Twitter, because I think it was like right after my birthday, and it
Hmm.
was like right after I like dropped the song with Fraxium, I think.
Hmm.
And it was like it was so weird because like I sometimes have a hard time like pinpointing like what actually is like my breakout song, because like
Hmm.
there was like the song with Frax, which to to this day I still don't understand how that song came to be, because I had 600 SoundCloud followers at the time.
Hmm.
And then there's that, and then there's What's My Age Again, which like everybody knows for the Twitter snippet.
Hmm.
And then there's me,
Hmm.
and Quinn posted that on her story, and that's like partially how it like got to where it was.
Hmm.
And then there was Woodside Gardens and
Hmm.
52 Blue Mondays, which like are the two singles. So I'm like, I don't know which one of those was like the breakout single, but I think, oh no, the crazy moment is when, definitely when Quinn posted my song on her story.
Hmm.
Especially because like I looked up to I still look up to Quinn so like so much,
Hmm.
but like at the time we were like we didn't really know each other, so I was like, what? The Osquin likes my music? The cat mother?
The cat mother. Yeah, no. I
The
think I
cat
think
mother?
yeah, I think a lot of people look up to. I think like universally, I've yet to meet somebody that doesn't look up to Quinn like immensely, because like they really have just like helped birth this scene. They really have had like so much influence on the scene. I think they're like a really really respectable figure. So it makes sense. I can imagine getting like a repost from them would be like a holy shit moment.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, like, on the topic of your online presence, with all of the like horrific, horrible shit that's been happening in Palestine recently, we've seen the discussion on what creators, specifically in this scene, what their responsibility is, if they have a platform, what responsibility they have to spread information or aid services or whatever the case may be. So I'm wondering, what responsibility do you feel people in your position have to speak on topics such as that?
I mean, what I do is like I repost a lot of stuff on Twitter, like that is like informational about like not just like the stuff that like happens in Palestine, but I also retweet like donation stuff and like GoFundMe's and stuff. And I feel like if you have a platform, like use it, especially in like a time like this where like everyone need like they need to know what's happening. Or like the thing is, every at this point I think like everybody knows what's happening, but I feel like the donation funds and like the GoFundMe's and like the, not so much the petitions, but like stuff where it's like you can actually do something and like, like take action on something rather than just spreading awareness, because I think that's more important like now, because
Mm-hmm.
like I said, like everybody knows what's going on now, but like what are you gonna do now? So
Right.
I think like, yeah, action, we should start like encouraging to spread action rather than just awareness.
Right. Yeah. I think it was really, really inspiring to see the way that like the scene kind of like came together, because like a lot of issues, a lot of people have with activism in that realm is performative stuff, like just simply being like, here's a petition or whatever, and nothing else. But I think it was really, really inspiring to see like just like a wave of people be like, hey, here's what you need to do. Here's the educational resources you need. Here's like some places to donate to. It was really, really awesome to see that come out. And then back to the topic of Teen Week. I can imagine now is a pretty good time for you to, because trying to keep the two worlds separate. I can imagine now is a pretty good time for you to be, I guess, quote unquote, blowing up. So now that because I believe you're graduating soon, are you headed off to college or?
Yeah, the thing is, I'm like, okay, so I have like 1 month left of school. Like I
Mm-hmm.
graduate on like June 23rd, I think.
Hmm.
And then like I don't really want to go to college because I feel like school is just such a waste of time. Or, like just for
Hmm.
like creatives in general, like school is just like not it. That's
Hmm.
my opinion. Because
Right. Fair enough.
if you
Yeah.
want
No,
to
I
go
totally get that.
if you want to go to school, go for it. But like
Hmm.
that's not for me.
Right.
But I am going to college. I don't know for
Hmm.
how long, because
Right.
let's hope, let's cross our fingers that
Hmm.
I guess something happens.
Hmm.
But for now, yeah, I'm
Right.
going to college.
And then, do you have any plans on studying maybe like audio engineering or anything like that in college? Or
I thought about it, and then I like talked to people at the college I was going to, and I'm like, wait, this sounds lame. So I'm just undecided for now.
right, no, that totally makes sense. I think through stuff like YouTube tutorials and whatnot, I think pretty much every single creative realm has been democratized to the point that like you don't know what you don't know, obviously, but like I think for the most part, like 95% of what you can learn at like maybe film school or audio engineering course, you can find online for free.
Yeah.
And then like on the topic of having like such a promising career at such a young age, it seems like every day we're seeing more and more like 14, 15, 16, 17 year olds like kickstart that dream of becoming like a self-sufficient artist through platforms like such as like DistroKid and whatnot. But of course the problem there is that 14, 15, 16, 17 year olds are now being handed like not insignificant amounts of money. And I'm financially irresponsible as hell. If I got like a DistroKid check, I'd probably spend it all on like Valorant skins or something. So I'm wondering, what sort of steps have you taken to ensure that you're like responsible with what you earn?
Well, I mean, like I don't really spend that much money on like clothes. Well, because I mean, like for the most part, I mean, I've definitely been buying more clothes now than I have like when I wasn't getting as much like because the thing is the teammate check is coming this month. The teammate check has not come yet,
Oh,
but
really? Okay.
the teammate check has not come yet. But I've definitely been a little more frivolous with my spending when it comes to like merch because like 90% of my clothes are merch.
Hmm.
I'm wearing my Porter Robinson shirt right now,
Oh, really? That's awesome.
but
Is that for
like
nurture or what?
nurture, yeah.
Okay.
But before that, like a lot of my clothes are just like stuff I've worn since like freshman year,
Hmm.
stuff like that. But what I do to ensure that like I don't like have not enough money, but I also don't have like I don't know, just to make sure like everything's in balance. When I
Hmm.
do get like my like DistroKey checks and like my SoundCloud checks, I they go to my PayPal, and then I transfer half of it to my checking account and then half of it to my PayPal. So like this way, it's like somewhat in a balance
Hmm.
of some sort. And then when I like save up enough money on either end, I want to like my goal is to get a car
Hmm.
because like I mean like, I have my license, but like I keep using like my parents' car for everything. I don't want to have to keep asking them.
Right.
I don't want to have to like because like what if they have to use their car? So I
Hmm.
was like, I could just get myself a car, and then the problem would be solved. And then, or the second option is I save up lots and lots of money and I get a place to live
Hmm.
because I've always wanted to get an apartment ever
Hmm.
since I was like 13, 14. I've always wanted to like not settle down because like I'm 17, I'm not gonna settle down.
Right.
But like I've always wanted to just like chill out in an apartment
Hmm.
because I
Yeah.
feel like yeah, it would be cool to live in a big house, but like I don't know, what would you do in all those rooms?
Hmm.
Especially if you're like living by yourself, like
Hmm.
what are you gonna do with all that space?
Yeah,
I feel like
I've never understood people that like get at like huge ass houses and like a one bedroom apartment. I feel like is like more than enough, or like maybe like one bedroom in an office or whatever. I think those are very financially responsible goals to be going for, shooting for like a car and an apartment. Considering I feel like a lot of people our age would just be like, oh, I'm gonna buy a bunch of like, I'm gonna buy Dior, I'm gonna buy J's, I'm gonna buy all sorts of shit and stuff. So I think that's a very responsible way to go. And then, of course, another way that artists in the scene are going to be making money pretty soon is live shows. Like that's a topic that's popped back up now that both Glaive and Eric are set to perform at the Lyrical Lemonade Summer Smash.
yeah, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, and I can imagine for them it's going to be like I can imagine it's going to be really real. I think intimidating is an understatement when I say like walking out to a crowd of like 20,000 plus people and performing live for the first time in like over a year. So I'm wondering, like, what is your attitude towards potentially performing live someday? Do you have any anxiety towards it? Like,
I feel like just thinking about it gets me anxious kind of because like
mm-hmm,
especially because like sometimes I like ask my sister like, hey, do you want to go to the drive-through? Like, do you want to like go order something from the drive-through? And like sometimes I don't even want to do that because I don't want to have to like talk to the drive-through.
mm-hmm,
But like or like I don't want to have to like yeah, I don't want to have to like interact with like anyone or like something like
mm-hmm,
that. I mean, that sounds like really stupid, but I don't know. I just get like anxious over like the smallest little things. So I feel like either if I were to like perform over like if I were to perform for like a giant crowd, I feel like one, there are like two roads it could go down. Like the first road, it would be like it would my anxiety would just like shut down, and I just would technically like not be in the moment. But like,
Hmm.
or the second option, where I would just like freeze. Like I can envision myself just like freezing. It's like I've done that in like circumstances before where I've gotten like so anxious where it's like my legs just like tense up and I just freeze.
Hmm.
But like that's common. But like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can totally get it. I think it's perfectly valid to like talk about like, like going to like the drive through and stuff like that. I've dealt with like I think a lot of people in the scene of general have dealt with like a lot of like horrible anxiety. So I can totally get that. But I gotta say, a Delete Zeke live performance sounds like a pretty electrifying way to spend an afternoon. But as the scene inevitably grows through things like live shows, I'm sure the use of like blanket terms to describe like music within it is only going to become more common. So I'm wondering, how do you feel about terms like such as like hyperpop being used to define your music?
I don't hate it. I mean, I don't mind it. Like, I mean, like, do I do I prefer being called? Well, it's okay. I don't know because I feel like I make like all kinds of stuff. There's definitely like teen week, like there's drum and bass, and then there's like EDM, and then there's quote unquote hyperpop,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like some ambient parts. I don't know. I would say if we're talking about like the father of all umbrella terms, I say just electronic music, but like,
Mm-hmm.
but teaching myself how to play the guitar,
Hmm.
so you can expect some guitars in the
Hmm.
future.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. How have you found like teaching yourself the guitar so far?
It's quite hard, but
I can imagine. Yeah.
I I've always had a guitar in the house, but no one in my family is a musician. We just have a random guitar in the house. Like I found it downstairs next to a cabinet, and like it's always been there. Like ever since I like lived in this house, it's like it's always just been there next to a cabinet, and like people would like occasionally just pick it up and they go like and just play like a bunch like a myriad of wrong notes. But like I feel like especially recently with like because there's just so many things you can do with a guitar. So I was like, why not utilize the guitar in my music? Especially because
Hmm.
all the guitars I've been using, like all of the guitars I've been using as of May 4, 14th, I want to say, it has been just fake guitars. And
Hmm.
then I made was it when was yeah the 14th? That was a Friday.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I made last Friday. I made my first song with real guitars.
Hmm.
And what I've found myself doing is like I can play like one note at a time. Like I get to drum like dum 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 dum, and then
Hmm.
I can play a different note, or like be like, or another layer will be like dum 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 dum, like student like different notes, and then you can layer them on top of each other and like do a chord progression almost because that's it's technically cheating, but like I don't know if works for me.
I mean, there are no rules in hyperpop, so I mean, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know if you could see it, but like that back there, I'm not ashamed to admit, I got that guitar like it was like donated from like a family member like a year ago, and I'm not ashamed to admit the only song I've ever learned how to play on it is "Save That Shit" by Lil Peep. Literally two notes, and that's it for the entire thing. So, um, but no matter how many artists, new artists you discover, it always seems like there's always like 100 popping up like every more that like every day that you haven't that you wish you heard earlier. So if you could pick a handful of people to put our listeners onto right now, who would you pick?
Quanic, definitely Quanic
That's Quanic with three N's for anybody listening.
with three N's. I
Yeah, that
always
got that always got me messed up. But yeah, three
I
N's, very
always spell it
important.
with two N's. I don't know if you guys know who Sadrist is, but they're kind of they're pretty big. Like they're big on SoundCloud, but like
Mm-hmm.
they're like one of my favorite producers ever.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty big on SoundCloud, but like I don't know. I think they're like from a different community.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Benoni, but
Mm-hmm.
instead of the O, it's an X, so it's spelled like Benxni.
Okay. Thank you for including
He's
pronunciations. It's always difficult.
Yeah, he's very underrated. My friend Timothy Bright, he's not in this community, but I've just been friends with him for a while, and he
Hmm.
deserves a lot more recognition.
Hmm.
So yeah, Timothy Bright, Quanic, Satirist, Benoni. Oh, and Mason Infinity from
Hmm.
my collective Planet Zero. The Mason Infinity.
Right.
Check them out.
Hmm. Yeah, just about everybody from Planet Zero, I think,
Sev-
deserves a good shout out. Yeah.
Severely underrated.
Hmm. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid five. And then on a similar note, you've collaborated with quite a few people throughout the years, but I can imagine there's still plenty more you want to work with. So if you could pick like a few dream collaborators, who would they pick? It could be anybody dead or alive, like Underscores or Porter Robinson.
Both, actually.
Both.
Both, actually, because I
Okay.
love underscores and I love Porter Robinson.
Hmm.
I want to collab with Arca. I definitely want to collab with Arca.
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
I want to collab with Pierre because I had a whole phase where I was just like making Pierre type beats, and like Pierre's just like one of my favorite producers ever.
I think any producer ever can admit to the fact that they went through that stage at one point. Yeah.
Um, like you said, I want to work with Skrillex one day
Hmm.
because Skrillex was like the first artist I listened to, like the first or like the first album that I purchased because I didn't know how to pirate stuff when I was little. So I was like, "Mom, can I get this album?" And she was like, "Sure, whatever." It was Bangarang EP by Skrillex was the first
Mm,
thing I purchased on iTunes, and then the
classic.
second thing was Spitfire EP
Mm.
by Porter Robinson, and then I feel like who else is like I talked to Umru and he was like, "We should make something," and I was like, "We should." And we should make something. But let's see. Oh, I don't know if you guys know who Payday is, but I've been friends with Payday for such a long time, and
Mhm.
we need to get something in. Me and Payday. Payday, if you're watching this, you know where to find me.
They're talking to you, Payday. Come on, but but yeah, okay. And I mean, like, I think a Skrillex collaboration is certainly possible now that we know he's a drainer. That photo that he posted on Twitter the other day, everybody was talking about
Yeah,
that one.
he follows Glaive, I think,
Hmm.
on Instagram.
Really? Okay. I mean, quite a few people follow. I think Cole Bennett follows Glaive as well. But yeah, all right. So finally, you've come a really long way in just 2021 alone, and I am beyond confident that you have like a really, really bright future ahead of you. But I understand you keep a manifestation journal. So if you could pick a few things from it to sort of pin down as things you want to accomplish in 2021, what would you pick?
Wait, let me actually get it real quick.
Oh yeah, no, sure, that'd be awesome.
It's actually a primary composition book.
Ooh, of course, only the highest quality.
Blank half page for drawing
Mm-hmm.
and Danielian ruled half inch with the guidelines for early writers.
Ooh, that premium. Oh, for early riders, of course.
So the very first thing I wrote in this journal was I will become self-sustainable from music.
Okay.
And then let's see. Um some of these actually kind of personal. Let's see. Um I put I will hit 1 million streams on a song.
Mm-hmm.
Porter Robinson will follow me on Twitter.
Right, very, very valid goal to have. Absolutely.
It's possible. It's
Yeah. No,
possible.
certainly, absolutely. Considering the trajectory the scene's been on recently, and considering the success you've obtained, absolutely.
I put I'll hit 200K monthly listeners at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I have I scribbled out Grimes will collab with me. I don't know why I scribbled it out, but I think it has something to do with Elon Musk.
You know what? Very, very valid. Her on SNL. That was we don't want her anymore. You guys can have her. But
No,
yeah.
I like Grimes, but
No,
I
Grimes is an
think
amazing artist. But yeah.
I feel like being friends with Grimes grants you some sort of like immunity or like when Like, let's say like you go over Grimes's house and you leave knowing something that you shouldn't know.
Elon's doing something to her. Elon's some. We got to get her out of there. She's
Mm,
doing
no,
something's happening to
it-
her.
think about this. She made him famous.
Exactly.
He Elon Musk is nothing without Grimes.
Yeah. They're gonna get divorced in what 6 to 9 months, and then he's just gonna suddenly Tesla stock is suddenly gonna drop off the deep end.
She was simply doing charity work.
What's interesting is the thing is that somehow they're both white, but somehow Elon's managed to gentrify her. I don't know how that managed to happen, but
Well,
but yeah.
because Elon Musk was like, he was born in South Africa, right? And then he basically just fled South Africa during apartheid and just made a bunch of money off of it, which is scummy and bad. And then Grimes was just like some creepy little girl, creepy little fairy psychic girl
She's a little
from
gremlin.
from Canada, the lands of Canada. Um, yeah, and somehow,
Somehow they're
Romeo
soulmates.
Romeo and Juliet esque love story.
A modern day modern day Romeo and Juliet. All right, that's a very very inspiring story to wrap up the interview with. Once again, thank you so much for meeting up with me. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you
also,
for having me.
of course, I also just noticed is that a what is that, a Nightmare Before Christmas with Totoro pillow in the background?
Yeah, I've had that pillow since like the sixth grade, I think.
Oh my god, that's wonderful. Okay, all right. Once again, thank you so much. It was really enlightening talking to you.